welcome back. We're here with Eddie Murphy, everybody. Delirious. So Delirious is 41 years, right? That's
Delirious.
1983.
Yeah.
So this, I had always assumed that you'd put a ton of thought into this outfit.
No, you know, I was supposed to be wearing something else that day, and something happened to it. It got a stain on it or something. I went to the mall, and I got a red jacket and some red pants. It's not even a suit. And put it together, and it went out, and now it's like, you know, this thing. I wish I had that suit.
It should be in a museum.
Not to wear.
Yeah,
not to wear.
just to have, yeah.
Yeah, it got all ripped up.
There's the ice cream bit in Delirious, which is one of the great comedy bits of all time.
That's if I could just have one bit to represent, I would say that's the one bit that's timeless and everybody gets and understands. That's my one forever bit.
It is a great forever bit because I think 40 years later, kids feel exactly the same about ice cream.
It's evergreen. That bit's
And
evergreen.
the other thing about it, I remember the first time I heard it wasn't from you. It was from like a kid at recess because we didn't have HBO. And so it was one of those bits that kids were doing, and I remember being like, you guys aren't this funny, what's going on? And then I got to find out the truth of it. And you what was your first one of these? What was the first time you did a talk show? Was it Carson?
Yeah, the first time I went on was the Tonight Show.
And did you do stand-up, or was it in the
I did. The first time I went on, I did stand-up.
And how did it go?
I did well.
Yeah. Were you nervous?
No, I wasn't. I was excited because back then that was like you know, that was the height of the whole. That was the ceiling. You get on Carson, then you made it. So getting on, I had a set that I knew was going to work, and I just went. I was excited about doing it, and I was already on Saturday Night Live. They didn't know I did stand up, so it was perfect. I went in there. It was great. Went great.
Your early days in LA, were you the kind of person who was starstruck when you met people, or were you used to it because you'd been on SNL at such a young age?
Yeah, I've been starstruck twice. I was starstruck by when I first met Muhammad Ali. Really like starstruck, like, and I had red shoes on. And we were going down the escalator. He's coming down the escalator, and I'm going, and he looks at me and said, "Them some fat fly shoes you got on." And when I met Paul McCartney, I was starstruck.
And he actually recorded with you, right?
I have a song that Paul sang some stuff on. Yeah.
And what was it? What was it like when you first met him? Were you actually sitting down with him in the studio, or did that come later?
No. The first time I saw him, I had done a charity. I had donated to a charity, so I asked him to do this record, and he said, "Yeah." We flew out. And it was the first time I saw him. Was in the studio at his house, and it was surreal. You're sitting with one of the Beatles, and he has all the equipment that they recorded the Beatles stuff on. So I went in his back, and he had this harpsichord type piano thing, and he started playing from Strawberry Fields, that little piano thing in the beginning. He played the actual. He said, "Hey, remember this?" Is it? And I was like, "Ah!"
It is so funny for a Beatle to say, "Do you remember this?" Like it hasn't still been playing constantly.
I went out to dinner with him once. I don't even remember anything. I remember I drove to the place, and the whole time he's in the car, and he's talking. I don't remember. I was just totally like fanned out like that. I don't remember any part of the night.
Do you think he knew you couldn't, you must have this now. You must sometimes be with people where you realize, oh, I don't even think they can be present because they're so excited to be with you. Does that ever happen?
I don't know. I don't think that, because I don't think it. This guy is one of the Beatles. That's why I was like that.
You also met Sidney Poitier. That's a pretty legendary fella.
Oh, yeah. This was when we did Harlem Nights. Our crew played against the crew of Ghost Dad that he had directed. There's Charlie back there. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, you know, when I got in town, all those old legendary stars, they were still around. So I got to meet people like him and Charlton Heston and Brando. I got to meet all of these guys. Lucy, they were still around. And Sammy Davis, you were still able to go up to Sammy Davis's house and you have a party and you see Steve and Edie Gourmet, and I was like, wow.
And you always, it strikes me that you had a great respect for that older generation.
Oh,
and so they must have been so excited to meet somebody who, you know, as a young person was having success. Did they love talking to you?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope like they would call to, like the way I met Brando, he called the agent and it was like, hey, I want to meet, and I went to Brando's house because he wanted to meet me. You know? I had dinner with Brando. It was a trip, and he did a scene from 48 Hours. He was like, he told me I became a star. He said, you became a star when you said I'm your worst nightmare. I'm a with a badge, and that means I've got permission to kick your ass. And I was like this. I was like, that's not how I did it. Yeah, I got to meet those. And Studio 54 was around still, so I got to meet that whole thing. I met Yul Brynner at Studio 54. Yeah. That's Yul. Who gets to meet Yul Brynner?
Right, who gets to meet Yul Brynner?
I got to meet Yul Brynner in Studio 54. And he kind of like, years later, I realized were they trying to pick me up? He was with his wife. So I'm like 21 years old, and Yul Brynner was like, would you like to come back to my house and party?
Oh, party. Yeah.
He said, would you like to come back with my wife and I and party? And I was like, what? Come to my place and party. And I was like, hey, we partying right here. And then I didn't go, and then years later I realized, I was like, oh, he might come party. And now I wish I had gone.
Yeah, right?
The story's much better.
Yeah. I give you permission. Next time you can tell it the other way.
It's such a better story if I had gone. And
right.
Yeah,
had
a threesome with him and his wife. And I'm on his wife, and he's over me going, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I do hope you come back and join it. It's by the way, it's so great to have you back at 30 Rock. I hope it's special for you to be back in the building as well.
Always. This is like my old high school.
Yeah.
I spent so much time in this building when I was, in my 20s. Late at night, we had to sleep in our office and run all through this building like maniacs.
Yeah. Well, we're very lucky you did, and it's always great to have you back. Thanks so much,
Thanks
Eddie.
for having
What a
me.
pleasure. Eddie Murphy, everybody. Beverly Hills Cop Act to Laugh begins streaming on Netflix July 3rd. We'll be right back with Nicola Yoon.